John Williams sat alone in his small, dimly lit apartment, the weight of his military uniform long gone but the burden of his past still heavy on his shoulders. A decorated war veteran, he'd once been hailed as a hero, his medals, awards, and achievements a testament to his courage and dedication. But now, those same medals seemed like nothing more than relics of a life he no longer recognized. His uniform had been traded for a plain t-shirt and jeans, but the invisible scars left by years of service refused to fade. After returning home, John had hoped for a fresh start. But the reality he faced was stark. The phone calls to employers, the countless resumes sent out, each one felt like a reminder of the life he once knew, a life filled with purpose. Yet, every rejection letter came with the same message: "We regret to inform you that your qualifications don't meet our current needs." The words felt like daggers, each one a painful reminder that the world had moved on without him. It wasn't just the rejection that gnawed at him, it was the isolation. His fellow soldiers had returned to their lives, their families, their careers, but John was left in the shadows, unable to bridge the gap between his experiences and the world around him. His days were spent aimlessly scrolling through job listings, trying to make sense of a life that no longer seemed to have direction. He'd hoped to find solace in civilian life, but it only seemed to amplify his sense of displacement. What had happened to the man who had once led his platoon through treacherous terrain, the man who had seen things most people couldn't even imagine? Was that man still inside him, or had the war taken so much from him that there was nothing left to give? John thought about the battles he'd fought, not just in war but in his mind, the nightmares that haunted him every night, the weight of guilt that followed him during the day. Each memory, each moment of doubt, seemed to build a wall around him that he couldn't break through. But deep down there was still a flicker of hope. Despite the pain, despite the rejection, John clung to the idea of a fresh start, even if it seemed impossible. Maybe he was just waiting for the right opportunity, for someone who would see beyond the scars and the struggle. Someone who would give him the chance to prove that the soldier still had something to offer. As he sat there, staring out the window at the bustling city below, John couldn't help but ask himself, could a man like him, someone with such a past, ever truly find success in the modern world? Was there a place for someone like him, or had the world moved on without him? As the chapter concludes, the audience is left with a sense of longing and uncertainty. The opening questions linger in the air, keeping the viewers engaged and eager to find out whether John will be able to overcome his past and make a new life for himself. John sat in his apartment, his fingers frozen above the keyboard. His inbox was full, but none of the emails were important. Nothing had changed. He sighed, his heart heavy with the same dull emptiness he'd been living with for months. He was about to close his laptop when a new notification popped up. The sender, Elon Musk. His breath caught in his throat. He stared at the screen, disbelieving. This had to be a mistake. Maybe it was a spam email. Maybe someone was playing a prank. But the name, it couldn't be fake. John's hands shook as he clicked on the email. Subject, Job inquiry. John, I've read your message. I admire your determination and service to your country. However, I do not believe a traditional job is what you need. What you need is a challenge, a real test of your abilities. I'm inviting you to meet with me at the SpaceX headquarters in Hawthorne, California. There you'll face a challenge that will require everything you've got, mentally and physically. This is not an offer of employment, but rather an opportunity to prove yourself. If you believe you are ready, I'll see you there. If not, no hard feelings. But remember, the greatest accomplishments are born from the most difficult trials. Elon Musk. John's heart pounded in his chest. His mind raced, unable to process what he had just read. Was this real? Musk didn't offer a job. He didn't even offer an interview. Instead, he had invited John to take part in some kind of challenge, something vague and undefined. The words were cryptic, as if Musk were testing not just his skills, but his very resolve. John sat back in his chair, stunned. The rejection letters, the endless hours spent sending out resumes, none of it mattered anymore. This wasn't the answer he had expected, but it was something else entirely. Could this be real? Could Elon Musk, one of the most influential figures in the world, actually be interested in him, a war veteran struggling to find his place in a world that didn't seem to care? John wasn't sure. 1,000 questions flooded his mind. What was this challenge? What did Musk mean by mentally and physically? Would this be some sort of test, or was it just a way to gauge his character? And more importantly, was this a chance to prove himself, or was this a cruel joke? The uncertainty gnawed at him. John's mind swirled as he thought about the implications of this meeting. He had been given an opportunity, a chance to prove something, to show the world that he still had value. But was it worth the risk? The email didn't offer any clear answers, but it had ignited something inside John. A spark. Hope. The drive to see this through, to meet Musk's challenge no matter how strange or daunting it seemed. He stood up, pacing the room, trying to steady his racing thoughts. The decision was simple, yet terrifying. He couldn't back down now. Not after everything he had been through. With trembling hands, he grabbed his phone and started booking a flight to California. But even as he clicked confirm, a gnawing doubt settled in his stomach. Was this truly the opportunity of a lifetime, or just a trap? As the chapter closes, John is left with mounting anxiety and anticipation. The reader is left hanging, wondering if this is a real chance or a dangerous game Musk is playing. Will John's leap of faith be rewarded, or will it lead to yet another crushing disappointment? The tension builds as John prepares for the unknown challenge ahead. John stepped off the plane, his heart pounding in his chest. He had made it to California, SpaceX headquarters to be exact. The heat of the Los Angeles sun hit him like a wall as he walked into the sterile, modern building. His eyes darted around, trying to take it all in, but his mind was too consumed by the tension building inside him. He was about to meet Elon Musk, the man whose vision had sparked the flicker of hope inside him. After checking in, a security officer led him down a long, polished hallway, its walls adorned with sleek images of rockets and futuristic vehicles. The hum of technology and innovation vibrated in the air, and for the first time since arriving, John felt a glimmer of confidence. This was where the future was being made. But in that moment, John had no idea just how much his future would change in the next few hours. He was led into a large conference room where Musk was waiting. The billionaire sat at the head of a long, gleaming table, his posture calm and confident, his eyes sharp as ever. He barely looked up as John entered, his gaze focused on a tablet in front of him. John hesitated for a moment before walking forward. "Mr. Musk, it's an honor to meet you." Musk's eyes flickered up, assessing John in a way that felt both piercing and distant. "The honor is mine, John," he said with a cool tone, then gestured for him to sit. "I don't want to waste time with pleasantries. I invited you here for a reason." John swallowed hard, trying to steady his nerves. Musk's words hung in the air like an unspoken challenge. "You've made it this far. But now," Musk continued, his voice calm but commanding, "I need to see if you have what it takes. I'm not interested in words, I'm interested in results. You say you're ready for a new start, that you're willing to push yourself. Well, it's time to prove that." John's stomach tightened. What was Musk getting at? "What do you mean?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Musk's lips curled into a small, knowing smile. "I've arranged for a simulation, a series of tasks designed to test your physical and mental limits. It will be difficult. It may even seem impossible. But I'm not looking for someone who gives up when things get tough. I'm looking for someone who rises to the occasion, someone who embraces challenges instead of avoiding them." John's heart raced. This was real. Musk wasn't offering a cushy desk job or an easy pass into his companies. He was offering a test, a gauntlet that could make or break him. Without another word, Musk stood up and motioned toward the door. "Follow me." John followed him down another hallway, his mind reeling. The further they walked, the more intense the feeling of dread washed over him. What kind of tasks were waiting for him? Were they dangerous? Would he even be able to complete them? He had never faced anything like this before, and yet something inside him refused to back down. The soldier in him, the man who had seen the darkest corners of the world, was still alive, still fighting. This was his chance. He wasn't going to let fear hold him back now. They arrived at a large, open room filled with high-tech equipment. Monitors, wires, and various machines were spread across the room, some of which John couldn't even identify. In the center of the room stood a massive, steel structure, something that looked like a cross between an obstacle course and a military training ground. Musk gestured toward the structure. "This is the first challenge. You will need to navigate through this course. It's designed to test your endurance, strength, and decision-making skills under pressure. You'll face unexpected obstacles, and it will push you to your physical limits." John looked at the structure, his heart pounding in his chest. It looked daunting, nothing like the controlled environment he was used to. His instincts screamed at him to step back, but the fire inside him refused to let him turn away. He had come this far. He wasn't going to quit now. Musk studied him silently, waiting for a reaction. "You can leave now if you want. No one would blame you. But if you're serious about proving yourself, then get started. The clock is ticking." The challenge ahead seemed impossible. Every fiber of his being screamed in doubt, but John's mind locked onto one thought. This was his shot. This was the moment that could change everything. Taking a deep breath, he took a step forward, ready to face the seemingly insurmountable task. He wasn't going to back down. The tension is built with the looming, mysterious task that John is about to undertake. The complexity of the challenge, the uncertainty of the outcome, and the question of whether he will succeed or fail keeps the viewer on edge, eager to see how he will handle the intense test Musk has set before him. John stood at the starting line of the obstacle course, sweat beading on his forehead. The cold metal of the harness against his chest felt oddly comforting, a reminder that he was no longer in the war, but this still felt like battle. The course stretched before him like a maze of impossible challenges, each one designed to test more than just his body. It was meant to test his mind, his resilience, his very character. Musk's voice echoed in his mind, cool and detached. The clock is ticking. You either succeed or you fail. Your choice. He took a deep breath and launched himself forward. The first challenge, a wall towering over 12 feet, loomed ahead, slick with dew. Instinctively, John's hands reached for the footholds, and his military training kicked in. His body moved with fluid precision, each movement deliberate, his focus sharp. His legs burned as he propelled himself upwards, and though doubt clawed at him, he pushed through, reaching the top in seconds. John didn't stop to catch his breath. His body ached, but he didn't care. He had faced worse, he had survived worse. The obstacle course ahead was no different. Each challenge, climbing walls, swinging across ropes, crawling through muddy tunnels, was a battle. And John wasn't about to lose. But this was more than physical endurance. The course was meant to simulate what Musk called real-world pressure. There were moments when John had to think on his feet, make quick decisions that could make the difference between success and failure. A rope bridge trembled under his weight, and for a moment John's stomach lurched. His military training had taught him to keep a cool head, no matter the danger, and that training kicked in now. He focused, blocked out the noise in his head, and made it across, heart pounding but steady. John wasn't just applying his physical strength. He was using everything he had learned over the years, the discipline, the mental toughness, the quick decision-making that had kept him alive in the darkest moments of combat. But as the course wore on, he felt something else, something he hadn't expected. He wasn't just reliving his past, he was growing, evolving. With every obstacle he overcame, he shed a bit more of the self-doubt that had plagued him since returning home. The man who had stepped onto this course was different from the man who had started this journey. As he reached the final challenge, a timed puzzle designed to test his analytical thinking, John paused. The puzzle was a tangle of gears, levers, and dials, each one more confusing than the last. In the war, he had learned how to handle ambiguity, how to solve problems when there was no clear solution. This wasn't a battlefield, but the stakes felt just as high. His mind raced as he analyzed the puzzle, each piece falling into place as if guided by instinct. Sweat dripped down his face, but his hands were steady. With a final turn of the lever, the puzzle clicked into place. The timer stopped. John stood there, panting, hands trembling, heart racing. He had done it. The impossible task was complete. A silence settled over the room. Musk stood in the doorway, arms crossed, watching intently. There was no applause, no grand celebration. But the look in Musk's eyes was enough. It was a look of respect, of recognition. Well, Musk said, breaking the silence. You've exceeded my expectations, John. John stood there, chest heaving, not entirely sure if he had heard correctly. His body screamed in pain, but his mind was racing with adrenaline and disbelief. I did it? Musk nodded, a small smile tugging at the corners of his lips. Not just did it. You thrived. You were prepared, not just physically but mentally. That's what I was looking for. You've proven that you have what it takes to succeed in this world. John's heart swelled. He wasn't just being offered a job. He was being offered a purpose. A role that wasn't defined by the limitations of his past, but by the limitless potential of his future. Musk walked toward him, extending his hand. John, I'm offering you a role at Tesla. But it's not just any role. I want you to lead a team focused on pioneering new energy solutions for veterans, building technology that helps those who have served this country find new opportunities just like you. You've lived the struggle, and you'll be the one to help others. John's breath caught in his throat. A wave of emotion washed over him, gratitude, pride, disbelief. This was it. His new mission. His new purpose. For the first time in a long while, he felt something he hadn't felt in years, self-worth. John's heart surged with pride as he realized that the challenges of his past had prepared him for this very moment. He had not only conquered the task Musk set before him, but in doing so, he had found a new calling. The job wasn't just an opportunity, it was a chance to make a real difference. Musk's offer was a validation of everything John had fought for, and it marked the beginning of a new chapter in his life, one where he would rise to a purpose greater than himself. John stood in the sleek, modern office of Tesla, overlooking the vast expanse of the company's campus. It felt surreal. Only months ago, he had been struggling to find his place in a world that seemed to have moved on without him. Now he was at the helm of a groundbreaking project, leading a team of engineers and innovators in developing new technologies to help veterans reintegrate into society. Musk's mentorship had been transformative. He didn't just teach John about cutting-edge technology or innovative strategies. He taught him to think beyond the constraints of his past. Under Musk's guidance, John discovered a renewed sense of purpose, a drive to build not just products but a legacy. The team was thriving under his leadership, and together, they had already made significant strides in creating energy-efficient devices tailored to the unique needs of veterans. Each success felt like a triumph not just for the company but for John personally. Every breakthrough was a reminder that his journey, no matter how painful at times, had led him to this point, a place where he could make a real difference. John's heart swelled with pride as he watched his team celebrate their latest achievement. He had gone from a broken veteran to a leader in an industry that was changing the world. And it wasn't just the work that filled him with pride, it was the way he could help others like him, the way his experiences had come full circle, providing a sense of fulfillment he had never imagined. As he walked out of the office, the sun setting over the horizon, John knew that this was only the beginning. His journey was far from over. The future was full of endless possibilities. And for the first time in years he felt ready to face whatever came next.